Hey, man.
Hey, bro.
I'm on the phone. Give me just a minute.
Yeah, get everything. Man, that's a professional opening right there. Here we are, the consummate professionals. That's us.
Hey, I tell you what, thank you all for joining us tonight, and we are excited to be here to be on air. Are we on air?
Well, on net.
On net.
Yeah, considering the internet was down half an hour ago.
I know. If I could turn the camera around, everybody would see Dennis back there. Dennis came and saved the day.
Yeah, apparently he plugged in something that was connected to nothing, and all of a sudden the world worked.
I wasn't going to say that.
I don't know. The prayer of a righteous man can accomplish much.
That's right. So we are very thankful for Dennis fixing the internet.
Yay, tech support.
Yeah, and Josh and Chris can now breathe a sigh of relief. They were running around a little bit earlier like, oh, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it was a bad sign when I came in the door down there and he was looking in the server closet.
That's right. The server.
It's not a happy sight.
No, when the server doors open, it's not a happy place to be.
No.
But we're thankful that you are all here. We're thankful to be here.
We are.
And tonight we are going to start a 3-part series, at least 3, on the book of Ruth. You know, when we started, I guess several weeks ago, looking at the book of Esther, something that came up was that there is another female character who's kind of just the opposite of Esther, and that's Ruth.
I think that's so.
And so we decided, well, let's look at Song of Solomon or Song of Songs, and then let's tack Ruth on to the end. And Lord willing, 1st of April, we'll be back to our normal Bible classes and everything. So we had a few more weeks to fill, so that's why we're doing Ruth.
Yep.
Somebody told me today on the mail route.
Yes.
They said, please don't throw Ruth under the bus like you did Esther. I'm like, that's terrible.
Hey, now, Esther threw herself under the bus. She leapt.
Yeah. Wow. You know, how can we throw Ruth under the bus?
No.
She's perfect all the way around.
Ruth is excellent.
That's right. So we're going to get into Ruth tonight, and so be turning in your Bibles to the book of Ruth. Where would we find Ruth, Matt?
We would find it after the book of Judges.
All right, after the book of Judges.
Which, as far as I know, is part of the only complete sentence in the books of the Bible.
Okay.
Well, Joshua, Judges, Ruth.
Wow.
See, if we're judging Ruth, it started a long time ago.
There we go. So let's go ahead and y'all be turning to Ruth. We'll be looking at a few of the verses along the way. Matt, give us some context to the book of Ruth. Besides Esther, it's the only other book named after a woman.
Yes.
We get that. Unlike Esther, the book of Esther, we get God all the way through it.
Like from chapter 1 on.
Yeah, I mean, just all the way through. We have godly people acting in very godly ways.
Yes. They're like some of the best people in the whole Bible.
They are. We have some godly people, though, acting in some ungodly ways. We'll explore that as we get there. But give me the time frame and the context of when the book of Ruth takes place.
Well, I think you see that in Ruth 1:1, which says, during the time of the judges, there was a famine in the land.
Okay.
And both parts of that are very important.
Okay. So explain that for us. Why is that important?
Well, first of all, this is significant because this takes place in the time of the judges.
Okay.
And the fact that it occurs right after the book of Judges is part of the reason why I hold Ruth in such affection. Because when I'm reading through the Bible, you go through Judges. And Judges is a book that, in addition to the usual cycle that we all learn about in kids' Bible classes, Judges also goes downhill. So that the last story in the book of Judges is one that we don't study in Bible class.
Right.
Because it starts with a guy's concubine getting chopped in pieces and only gets worse.
Yeah.
So it is where that story leaves you. And then you get to Ruth, and you have all of these wonderful godly people who are doing wonderful godly things.
Yeah, that's right. So in Judges, everybody's doing what seems right in their own heart. We start out the first sentence or two of Ruth, and we find some people who are following after their own heart. There's a famine in the land, so they leave the land. Yeah. And they go to the land of the Moabites to live, and they interchange marriage and all that.
Even the fact that there's a famine going on is significant because, today we think, oh, there's a famine, cyclical weather patterns, all the rest of that stuff.
Not an ancient.
Not in Israel.
That's
because
right.
Deuteronomy says that if you are faithful to God, he's going to bless you. He's going to send the early and the latter rains.
Mm-hmm.
But if you aren't faithful to God and you start pursuing idols and you start pursuing the gods of the nations around you, then he is going to withhold the rain and there is going to be a famine.
That's right.
You know, it's the famous phrase about, actually, I think is it Amos? About cleanness of teeth in all your cities.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that they had good dental hygiene.
That's right. They had nothing to eat.
Yeah, they had nothing to eat, so the teeth were clean.
That's right. So we find Ruth then at the end of Judges, both in our Bibles and in a chronological context.
Yes.
Now, there are some people that, and I'm just going to give this to everybody because if you do any research, you got to study Bible, it probably will mention this. Some people say this, while it's set here contextually within the story itself, it actually has a bigger purpose and was written much later during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. Have you come across that before?
I have. It's actually kind of like Jonah in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the big themes of Ezra and Nehemiah is you have the Jews taking steps to really separate themselves from their neighbors.
Right.
We're going to make the men who have married foreign women put away their wives, and we're not going to let these people help us build the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. And so the argument goes that Jonah, which shows God's regard for the people of Nineveh,
Right.
and Ruth, which shows that marrying a Moabite was just fine and dandy, that these things were written in reaction to all of the stuff that you see in Ezra and Nehemiah.
That's right. I don't hold to that view. So the view then becomes Ruth is a much later book, set within the time of the Judges.
And that would make it fictional too.
Right. That's right. So I don't hold to that. That's not the view that we're going to follow.
Yeah.
The view we're going to follow is it's couched right here where it should be, chronologically, at the end of Judges and before 1 Samuel.
And it's worth remembering that when you hear stuff like that, that a lot of the time you have biblical scholars who will think of something that could be true, and then they will act like it is true.
Right.
Like, for instance, one of my favorite examples, I ran across this again today, is there's a scene in 2 Chronicles where they're cleaning out the temple and they find the book of the law and they bring it to Josiah and he reads it and he's horrified because of all the stuff they're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the 19th century, there were some scholars who read this story and decided that this is the point when you had somebody go write the book of Deuteronomy and plant it in the temple. And, you know, is that theoretically possible? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just no evidence for that.
Right.
And likewise with Ruth, that even though you have what might seem like a thematic connection between this and the events of Ezra and Nehemiah, there's just not really much more to go on beyond
That's
that.
right. That's right. So let's go with the idea then. It's set right here within its chronological context at the end of Judges, at the beginning of 1 Samuel. So in this place then, what's the purpose for a book like Ruth?
I think, first of all, this is something that gives us some insight into the lineage of David and ultimately into the lineage of Jesus.
Right. That's right. Yeah, because David's going to become the main character, if you will, as we get into 1 and 2 Samuel.
Yes.
And then later in the 1 and 2 Kings that follow.
Yes, and if I remember rightly, Ruth is one of the 4 women who is named in the genealogy of Jesus.
That's correct. She is. And so here is the origin story, if you will, for the great king who is going to be the forerunner of the Messiah and who will lead them to great prosperity and prestige on the world stage.
That's it.
And so we get that. And this is part of it. I think there's another part too that, like you said, is the anti-Jonah.
Yes.
Jonah's all about how Jonah portrays the idea or the side of the coin that we don't like foreigners. Here we get an idea that shows, you know what, but foreigners who accept the Lord, well, they are to be accepted.
Yes.
And not only are to be accepted, but to be brought into the fold in a grand way.
And so, to summarize Jonah, the point in Jonah is that God loves foreigners.
Right.
And here, I think the point is that foreigners can love God.
Right. I like that. Okay. I haven't turned to our audience yet. I did bring my monitor phone today.
Excellent.
As I was heading out the door, Lily said, "Don't forget your extra phone." So I do have the extra phone. Well, Matt, we got a lot of folks.
No roll call would have left a hole in all our lives.
That's exactly right. There's a lot of folks that have weighed in. I'll give you one more minute or two. Let us know that you're watching. If you're not a member of the Jackson Heights congregation, let us know where you're watching from. We would love to know where folks are watching us from. Yeah. We get viewers really from all over the Southeast and a few Midwestern states.
They come sneaking in.
They do. There's always a few.
They're dressed much more warmly.
Our number one audience is still women, 55 and over.
Ladies, we love you. You're great.
Thank you. Thank you for supporting us. And so just let us know that you're watching, and we'll be sure to do roll call here in just a minute. Okay.
That's right.
Matt, we've got several different characters in this story, several different people. Start giving us kind of an overview. Just give us an idea who all do we have. Let's start with Naomi, because she's one of the first main characters that we have. Tell us a little bit about Naomi.
Naomi is somebody who is from the tiny little village of Bethlehem in Judah.
Okay.
And she is married. And because there is a famine in the land, she and her husband decide that they're going to move to Moab because they've heard that conditions are better there.
That's right. And if there's anything that should shock us when we read something like that, is that they left the land.
Yeah, it's like turning your back on God's promises.
That's right.
So this is a very odd thing for them to do.
That's right. So Naomi and her husband leave the land. They go with their two sons to the land of the Moabites. In the course of time, her two sons die.
Yeah.
Her husband dies.
Yeah. Although two sons introduce other characters before their passing.
That's right. And those other two characters are Ruth, obviously, and who's the other one?
Orpah.
Orpah. Have you ever messed up and said Oprah?
I'm tempted every time because, you may know the story there, but Oprah Winfrey was named after this character.
Okay.
Except her mom messed up the spelling. Instead of Orpah, hit Oprah.
Wow. Did you know she used to be on Channel 4 in Nashville?
I did not.
So was Pat Sajak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nashville natives. You never know. Okay, so we've got Ruth. Give us a little bit about Orpah, and then I'm going to turn to the audience and do roll call.
Well, Orpah, like Ruth, is a Moabitess. She seems like a decent sort. She expresses her commitment to Naomi to begin with.
Right.
But
maybe we should say this. So Naomi's going to go back.
Yes.
So all the bad's happened to her. She hears that things are good. And we're going to do the text next week. We'll start getting into the text next week. So she decides to go back. She wants to leave the two Moabite women that her sons had married back.
Yeah, just go back to your families, folks.
Go back here. Orpah it says, "No, I'm going to go with you." And Naomi's like, no, seriously, go back. And then Orpah says, okay, good luck with you. But Ruth, on the other hand, well, she is the great character here.
Yes.
If we are to compare her to Esther, she's the anti-Esther.
I think that's fair.
She is always taking the initiative to do good, where at the beginning of Esther's very passive and then takes the initiative at the end. Ruth is always taking the initiative. Yes. God is always on Ruth's lips. We don't have to have an extra biblical story to put it there. It's always there.
Yes.
Though at the end of the story, though, Ruth does seem a little passive, doesn't she? When Naomi has the blind date, so to speak.
So even while she is somebody who takes a lot of initiative, she is also somebody who listens to the wisdom of older people.
That's right.
I mean, just in every way, she comes across as a quality character.
That's right.
And when you have, I guess the comparison to make is you have Esther, who is a Benjamite, and she's part of God's people, and yet we never really see her acting like she has anything to do with God.
Right.
And so she performs less well than we would expect. But when we're talking about Ruth, we have somebody who is a Moabitess, a foreigner.
Right.
And yet, from beginning to end, she's all about God.
That's right.
So she performs much better than we would expect.
She is, I guess, next to Boaz, they are the two most godly people in the book.
Yeah, and Naomi is not terrible. Naomi's just kind of grumpy at God.
She's bitter.
Yes. Wah, wah, wah.
All right. On that, we'll stop there. Lauren says, Clay, your volume is still up on your phone. Oh, okay. Yeah. We figured that out.
No, he's just shouting. No.
Okay. Let's do everyone's favorite.
Yes.
All right. Now this very first one, I'm going to let Matt. Oh my. So I asked the guys not too long ago. I said, can we do a crawler on the bottom? Because we have a special service coming up. Yes. And we're really thinking about how do we do this in a very different way, broadcast-wise. And I told the guys we need a crawler. So they have put a crawler up.
Hey, is it a crawler of the roll call?
It is crawling to just roll call.
Excellent. So it's like we're on Fox News or something.
I'm not pretty enough to be on Fox News.
No.
All right.
My hair is neither long nor blonde enough.
That's right. You showed up in a skirt, I'd disown you. All right, you ready?
You and the elders.
That's right. Is he still here? He is. Stop. Okay.
We haul ourselves back from the abyss. Roll call.
That's right. All right. The Vanderfords are watching, and Sandra and Bradley are watching. And let's see. I see Chris and Debbie are there, and the Smith family, Lynn says, is watching. Lauren and is Lauren and the kids watching?
I think maybe just Lauren. I think the kids might be tasked with cleaning the upstairs. Right now.
Good for them. All right. And Ashley is watching, and Stephanie says that they are here. And Jeff, even though his wife has said we're here, he also has to say we're here. And that's fine. We get that. And Shirley says they're watching, and Lauren says, yay, Dennis. And the Ledford family is with us tonight. And Barbara Latimus is watching. And Barbara, if you would, just real quick, tell us where you're at. I'm thinking she's in Illinois.
Maybe. I don't believe I know the sister.
Matt Kaysen is watching, and Shelly is watching. In fact, as I was going out the door, Micah goes, are y'all doing the show tonight? And I was like, yeah. He goes, can I come? Like, buddy, there's nothing for you to do. He goes,
the truth?
I can watch.
True.
I'm like, watch it from the house. That way I don't have to corral you if you get bored.
I don't know that only watch is part of Micah's skill set yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. Larry and Brenda are watching, and Aloha is watching. Aloha, I hope that you are recovering and feeling better. Rufus and Margaret are present and accounted for, and Glenda is watching. And let's see, Joni is watching us, and the Botha family is watching. I hope y'all are doing good. I missed y'all Sunday. Our pew was half empty. Yeah. Without the Botha clan sitting on the other end.
Makes a difference.
That's right. Tammy says she's watching, and so is Janie. And Jerome says, good evening, Jackson Heights family. So I'm glad Jerome is with us. Now the entire Botha clan is watching. Joe, Caitlin, Chloe, and Caleb, sort of.
Excellent. Well,
sort of. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm really proud of sort of from Caleb.
I'll take that. Carolyn is watching us, and Carolyn, we will not throw Ruth under the bus.
See? We've already demonstrated that.
Oh, I was so far off. Oh, my goodness. Barbara lives in Dixon.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh. Let's see. And Rachel is watching, and Debbie McCord is watching, and Nelda just weighed in and said she's watching too.
Good.
Thank you all for watching. And, Matt, I know we have a good time with this.
Yeah.
But I hope everybody else is having a good time. And I hear that they are.
That's the word.
Yeah.
People think we're funny. Not our wives, obviously, but other people.
No. We made our wives proud, though, the last 3 studies.
That is true. Neither one of us had to sleep on the couch.
Nope. I was told, don't embarrass your wife.
At least not more than normal.
More than normal. Okay. All right. let's talk about this idea of bookends real quick.
Yeah.
So when you have a story, whether it's a miracle story, whether it's a parable, whether it's just a story relating a historical account.
Yeah.
If we see some similarities at the beginning and maybe some similarities at the end, that's called inclusio, or sometimes people just call it bookends. We get that a little bit in the book of Ruth.
We do. We have like genealogical stuff.
Yeah, so we get the
beginning and end.
That's right. And so that might help us understand a little bit about its theme and its purpose, that we're getting that genealogy.
Yes.
But we also get a little bit of one, let's see, in chapter 1, verses 1 through 5, when we get the story here about... All right, I got to say something real quick. Jane has interrupted.
Okay.
We will acknowledge Jane now. She says, Barbara is my good friend from Dixon. Her last name is pronounced Lamastus. Did I say it? I still can't even say it right.
Lamastus?
Lamastus.
I don't know.
What was I saying?
I have no idea.
I don't either. Thank you, Barbara, for watching.
We appreciate you watching, even though we're butchering your name.
And thank you, Jane, for
setting us straight. Doubtless not for the last time.
No. I love Janie. I love Jane. I'll give her a hug on Sunday.
She reminds me of my mother, actually.
Does she?
She does.
That's a high compliment.
They would have liked each other a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so we get the story in verses 1 through 5. We get the introduction. They've gone to the land. Everybody dies there. There is some faithfulness with Ruth, very little with Orpah, and so they come back into the land. Then we turn over to the end of the book, and in verses 13 through 17, we see everything reversed.
Yes.
Instead of being a time of bitterness and a time of trial, it is now a time of rejoicing and a time of blessing.
Right.
So can you give us those last few words there in verses 13 through 17?
It says, Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. He slept with her, and the Lord granted conception to her, and she gave birth to a son. The women said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you out a family redeemer today. May his name become well known in Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. Indeed, your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. Naomi took the child, placed him on her lap, and became a mother to him.
Yeah.
So, as you say, just a complete reversal, because in Ruth 1, just things look, again, bitter for Naomi.
Right.
But things have gone as wrong for her as it is possible for them to go for an Israelite woman.
Absolutely.
And yet all of this is reversed. And it is very clear whom all the spectators believe is responsible.
That's right. So there is a connection back to Esther, at least in when we look at the two books side by side. There's role reversal. There's providence.
Yes.
We get that as well.
We don't have any miracles in Ruth.
No, we don't.
But it is still something that is credited to the action of God.
That's right. And so really and that is the big difference. So when Ruth happens to just go glean in the land of a kind and benevolent relative who can also be a redeemer, just so happens.
Yes.
We see God's providence working there. And in fact, they will give providence to God. I mean, they will give glory to God, and they will bless his name.
All the way through.
All the way through.
These are very pious people.
That's right.
You do not have to incorporate pious bias to make them pious.
That's right. Very good. Okay, we got one last question that we need to address, and that's that the author continuously refers to Ruth as a foreigner, as a Moabite. But according to the law of Moses, they were not allowed to marry foreigners, or at the very least, not allowed to marry Canaanites.
Yes.
Which the Moabites aren't listed among the 7 nations.
Right.
But they were forbidden to have relationships with Moabites.
Yes.
And particularly in Deuteronomy chapter 23.
That's it.
That's where we get that law in the law of Moses that says a Moabite is to not be allowed into the assembly It's not allowed to come to the tabernacle or to the place where God will put his name.
Yes.
Even to the 10th generation.
That's it.
So some people want to then say that what we get here in Ruth is leading up to David, and David's the 11th generation. So David gets to come into the assembly.
Yeah.
I don't think we should look at it that way.
Well, first of all, that doesn't fit with the genealogy.
That's right. It doesn't
because I think Boaz is actually presented as David's great-grandfather.
That's right. Now, some people will then say, just to try to make all this fit, well, father can also mean grandfather or great-grandfather.
It can. And there is some elasticity
That's right.
in there.
That's right. But that whole, even to the 10th generation, I don't think he is saying in that law, okay, when we get to the 11th, then everybody can come in. I think it's hyperbole to say never.
Yes. And you see evidence to that reading in Nehemiah 13.
Okay.
Starting with verse 1 of Nehemiah 13. At that time, the book of Moses was read publicly to the people. The command was found written in it that no Ammonite or Moabite should ever enter the assembly of God because they did not meet the Israelites with food and water.
Right.
And so here you have the paraphrase in Nehemiah, and it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's none of them should ever. 10 is just a symbol of completeness. These are not people who are supposed to be in the precincts of the tabernacle or the temple.
I just had a thought as you're reading that, and I had not considered. So why are the Moabites banned? Because they did not meet the Israelites with food and water.
Right.
What does Ruth the Moabite do for her Jewish mother-in-law?
Provides for her.
Provides for her. And so one reason that she would then be allowed to come into the assembly, because the question is, how does this square with the law of Moses? Because not only is she brought into the assembly through marriage, but she is in the lineage of King David.
Yeah.
We'll find her in the book of Matthew in the lineage of, obviously, in the lineage of Jesus.
Yes.
How is it that the law can say one thing, but we see another thing happening here?
Yes.
And I had never thought about that before.
And that's part of it.
She is doing the thing that kept her ancestors. She is not doing the thing that kept her ancestors out.
It almost reminds me of the discussion in Romans about the difference between Adam and Jesus, how Adam brought death and Jesus brought life. And so it's like Ruth is reversing the wrong that her ancestors did.
That's right. And so she then proclaims, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, she proclaims then that your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Where you go, I will go.
Yes.
Where you lie down, I'll lie down.
And, even though she's not male, so it's not exactly on all fours, I think that what we see from her is similar to what we see from the various proselytes in the New Testament, that you have somebody who is from a foreign nation, but they say, I am going to serve the God of Israel, and I am going to adopt all of the laws and customs of the Jews. I'm going to get circumcised. I'm going to keep all the dietary restrictions. And somebody like that was fully accepted into the assembly.
Right.
In fact, Jesus actually comments on the Pharisees' practice there by saying in Matthew 23 that they go about on land and sea to make one proselyte.
Right.
But the problem was that was where the problem started.
That's right.
And so you do have this idea that whenever somebody wanted to leave their people behind to seek the Lord, then the Lord would welcome those people and count them as part of his people.
That's right.
Instead of as still a Moabite.
That's right. And one workaround that in the Jewish Mishnah, the rabbinical teachings, is they said that only applied to males, not to females. So then they would say, hey, that's why Ruth gets to come in. But we do have, I've got one on the tip of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think. But most of the examples we have in the Old Testament of proselytes are females. There are a couple of males, and I can think of one. It's just right there.
What was Uriah?
Uriah. I was trying to say Uzziah, and I knew that wasn't right.
No.
Yeah, Uriah is a Hittite. and yet here he is fighting the battles of the Lord.
Yeah, and I don't think he's just a foreign missionary,
Right.
or a foreign mercenary.
Mercenary.
I think that he was somebody who committed himself to God.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So that gives us kind of a bit of an overview of the book, I think. Here is a book about a woman who is a foreigner, but she loves the Lord.
Yes.
And she exhibits that love for the Lord by providing for her needy family members, Naomi.
And it's not just that she loves the Lord and is very gushy about God.
Right.
It's like in Romans 2, where it says that you have people who don't have the law, who instinctively do the things of the law.
That's right.
She is actually more righteous than a lot of her Jewish or her Israelite in-laws.
That's right.
That they left the land, she comes to the land.
Right.
And just in everything she does, fulfills the law to the highest degree.
That's right. Now, we didn't spend a lot of time with Boaz. We'll do that next week when we get into the text. Boaz is going to become her husband. He is a very godly man.
Yes.
He takes care of her,
Yes.
showers her with very special attention. He's an older gentleman. He's a
is.
gentleman farmer.
And he's apparently not very good looking either.
He must not be, because he thanks her.
Yes. He's
Thank
flattered.
you for not going out with younger men. Coming to this old fella.
Yep.
But all is well. Boaz is a very righteous man.
Yes.
And
interestingly, though, there are hints throughout the book that Boaz does not believe that his neighbors are.
right.
Now, you still see a lot of the darkness of Judges and some of the comments that he makes.
Yes, that's true. We'll bring those up. Well, when he just tells her, look, stay in my fields.
It's safe here.
It's safer here. There's that relative that actually is a nearer redeemer.
Yes. And
I'll trick him into giving it up.
well,
Basically, that's it.
He likes the land. He doesn't like the woman.
That's right. And so, he knows how to work the system
Yes.
to get what he wants. And we see that. So it is a great book. It's a short book. It's only 4 chapters long.
And they're not long chapters.
They're not long chapters. Just sit down between now and next Wednesday and just read it and absorb the story and how the people are constantly coming back to God. It really is. When you think about it in relationship to Judges, it is a breath of fresh air.
It really
to read
is.
this.
It's like a palate cleanser if you're going through the Bible in chronological order.
Right. That's right. And so take a quick listen or a quick read, or just look it up on a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm into listening. I love listening. Let's see. Well, I don't have it on this phone. Faith Comes by Hearing is a great podcast. And they have the entire Bible and several different translations. It's all there. You can listen to it anytime you want to, chapter by chapter. I think the reading for Ruth is maybe 20 minutes long, 18 to 20 minutes long. And it's dramatized. It's a great listen. So get down with the book and read it, understand it, and then next Wednesday we come back. We'll actually start to get into the text. So, Matt, why don't you give us one last word?
As long as we're talking about overarching themes,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that when you have all the Jewish scholars who are talking about this book and what it meant, they said that if you were to characterize it with a word,
Right.
that word would be hesed.
Okay.
And hesed it's pretty much untranslatable. Which, as evidenced by all the different ways that it is translated in our Bibles. Now, some Bibles will say loving kindness, so others will say faithful love, others will say steadfast love, which is, I think, what the ESV says. But the idea is that this is God's covenant love, that he is somebody who, even if you are faithless, he will remain faithful to you, and he will continue to be your God, and he will forgive you.
Right.
And so I think it's worthwhile watching how that idea plays out throughout this book to see if God is in fact faithful to his promises.
That's right. That's right. And definitely Naomi doesn't think he's very faithful to her at the beginning, but at the end he says, or she says, yes, he is.
Yes.
And so we see that unfold. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. I hope that you got a little something as we kind of introduce the book of Ruth. Next week, we'll at least do the first 2 chapters. Might as well break it up into 2 sessions. So next week, we'll do the first 2 chapters of the book of Ruth. We'll be back next week, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Because I know there's a lot of people that watch us after the fact. They don't watch us live.
Yeah.
They log on a Thursday night and say, oh, I missed that. I need to watch it.
I guess it's just as good then.
And so maybe we need to remind people we're here on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock.
We are.
And if you're in the Columbia area, we would love to have you here at the Jackson Heights Church of Christ. We're meeting on Sunday mornings at 10:15, Wednesday nights, or Sunday nights at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
You're preaching on Sunday morning this week?
Yes.
I hope.
I am preaching a sermon. We're talking about how to be a light in our marriages.
Right.
And this week I am tackling the topic of submission.
Okay.
And trying to look at that from a biblical perspective as opposed to the perspective of either the 2010s or 2020s or 1950s.
That's right. I like that. That'll be a good lesson. Maybe we need to make every March Marriage Month.
Maybe.
I like that. I got the Sunday night, 5 o'clock. I'll be looking at 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 16. Free to slave for God. We get both sides of that coin. Who are we as people, particularly in God? We are free, but we are His bondservant.
And there are lots of passages that explore that tension.
A lot. We're going to just kind of scratch the surface intentionally on that, because I think when we get to Onesimus, I did that earlier. When we get to the book of Philemon,
well, we'll get to Onesimus too.
Yeah, we'll get to
Can't
Onesimus
do Philemon
too.
without Onesimus.
That's right. Then we will really explore slave imagery and the world that the New Testament was written into, and how Christianity arises with this slave culture, and kind of what does all that mean for us. So we'll spend a lot more time with it then, but we'll scratch the surface a little bit on Sunday night.
Yeah.
So if you're able to join us, we have taking COVID protocols, and we would love to have you assemble with us in person. There's something just missing. I understand people need to be at home. I understand people need to watch online. But when we can get there, let's get back together.
That's right. And as those of you who are members in Jackson Heights hopefully have heard by now, the elders are looking at opening things back up, and we will keep you posted on all of the updates.
That's right. All right. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and good night.